I was 9 years old when I saw a computer for the first time. It was 15 years ago, but I still remember like it was yesterday. The computer was at my primary school lab, and as I approached, I could see a magical signing machine on the table. I was mesmerized by the fact that you could press the buttons on keyboard and mouse, and that would make something meaningful happen on the computer screen. For many years to come, my family could not afford a computer. But when I turned 11, that's when my uncle got me a computer. I still remember unboxing those big bulky cabinets, big bulky monitors, Intel Pentium 4 running Windows XP. And as I unboxed this machine, my happiness had no limits and no boundaries, because I could imagine a whole world of opportunities in front of me. However, after a long time I got the computer, I did nothing significant with it. Just like every other kid, I would spend very long hours playing computer games, and computer games like GTA Vice City, Delta Force, and Mario. Those are my favorite games. And if you're a 90s kid, I'm sure you remember these games, especially GTA Vice City. There was something so magical about driving through the streets of Vice City and causing havoc and using those cheat codes, right? So I continued to play computer games for very long hours. I would wake up early in the morning, sit in front of computers, start to play computer games, and end my day somewhere around midnight. And trust me, my parents were fed up with me. And it so happened that I happened to mess up my studies because I had completely avoided it. And then I ended up failing in computer science, the very thing that mesmerized me. I was born and raised in a family where failure was not easily accepted. My superhero parents, they wanted me to achieve greatness, especially since that I was born and raised in a low middle class family. They had a lot of expectations on me. And that my father, he himself was a professional nerd, so you can imagine how he took the news of my failure. Just like every other kid, I was told several stories of success. By my school, my parents, my teachers, they all told me the stories of success. They told me the stories of how humans landed on the moon, but they forgot to mention the number of failed attempts to land on the moon. As a kid, I was equipped with the lessons that how I should be dreaming for stars. But I was not equipped with the lessons that many failed attempts were quite okay to reach the stars. I wasn't ready for my failure. I was too young probably to even understand what failure meant. But seeing that failed on my reports card, I was surrounded with negative emotions, the feeling of worthlessness and whatnot. Because nobody wants to fail, right? And in fact, we do almost everything possible in life to avoid failure. And that our school, our parents, our teachers, they show us this distorted view of the world where they say, failure is not supposed to happen. They say, when you fail, you are probably doing something wrong. And that puts the fear in us, and we start to find failure is frightening. And then we start to think, when we fail, we must have done something terribly wrong. And a lot of us cannot even overcome the failure because we are always afraid. What is the next terrible mistake that you're going to make and you're going to fail, right? And I was the same. Slowly, I was turning 12. This is when my curiosity took me to write my first lines of code. And you might be wondering, what was the first line of code I wrote? Hello world? Not really. I wrote, hi Yogesh. I was always an introverted kid. Watching a computer speak to me and say, hi Yogesh, I knew that this is going to be my best friend for the years to come. And it did. I had accepted my failure, I had learned my lesson, and I knew exactly what I had to do. So I started to teach myself computer programming. Now the same amount of effort that was being spent on playing computer games was now being spent on learning computer programming. And I would do this for many countless nights and days because my failure as a young kid had taught me very valuable lessons. It served as an intrinsic motivation to attain the goals that I always wanted. I'm 24 now. A few years ago, I went on to create a very powerful open source reconnaissance framework called reNgine. It is a security tool meant for reconnaissance, information, and intel gathering. And I remember being crazy for like a year and working all the time on building this tool because this thing was stuck into my head, and I also had a full-time job, and I was not getting enough sleep because I was spending all my time, effort, and energy on building this tool. So after working on it for many years, reNgine finally became one of the most popular reconnaissance framework, and a lot of individuals and organizations started using it. And I even got to present at top security conferences like Black Hat and DEF CON. Now, I'm not here to tell you that my journey has ended. Neither I'm here to tell you that I've achieved something of significance. There is a lot ahead of me to do. My journey had just started. But very often I start counting my mistakes, my failure, and I realize my mistakes, my failure probably taught me more things than my success could ever do. They taught me more strength, more courage, and more wisdom than any success or feeling of achievements could do. And I also have come to believe that success begins with very simple step. For me, it started with typing, "Hi Yogesh," and that was the beginning of my journey. Most importantly, I've also come to understand that a mistake or a failure is a learning opportunity, and you only lose when you stop trying. I still spend all the day writing computer codes, hacking or breaking into technologies, contributing to reNgine and open source. But over the years of failing into multiple things, from failing into computer science to creating as meaningful as reNgine, and presenting my research at several conferences around the world, and working as a research engineer, building solutions for crime and terror, I have failed many times, plenty of times actually. But I also have learned quite a few lessons. And I would like to share some with you on how to hack life like a pro. My 0th lesson for you. The humbling reality of life is that failure is not avoidable, and that failure is not the opposite of success. It is not an event. It is a process, and a lot of times this could be easily fixed with a proper guidance, a good mentorship, and probably a different definition of failure. And yes, a little bit of hard work. As a programmer, I have failed many times, and yes, it stung every single time. reNgine was not my first open source project though. There were a lot of projects that I worked on during my college days, and none of them went through, none. But this one went through. And I guess it had to do with a little bit of hard work, but more with the persistence and consistency. See, I cannot tell you how to avoid failure. I don't have that magic formula yet. And I'm sure I'll never find that as well. Because, you know, if I would be telling you to avoid failure, I would be telling you to avoid life. That is how life is. But you can overcome failure just like I did. And when failure happens, trust me, it will happen. I have a few tips for you to help deal with it. First, be kind to yourself. Failure is an indication that you're trying, and sometimes that is all you need. Keep trying. Write that code again, sketch that design, produce that song, publish that vlog or a video. Keep chasing your dreams. Pick yourself up again and again. Keep trying again and again until you succeed. Second, look for the lesson. Figure out what went wrong and how you could do better. And please, no blame games here, because mistakes or a failure are a learning opportunity, and you have to let go of your pride. Every time you fail, remember that there is a lesson waiting for you somewhere, and you have to go grab it. My second lesson for you on building passion. I built my passion for computers when I was only a little boy. Looking back, I'll say that I was very lucky to have built my passion at such an early stage of my life. And not everybody has been that lucky, and I recognize that. However, no matter your age, it is never too late to build your passion. But the biggest problem is that the way we define passion is flawed. A lot of us expect us to be burned with a passion. A lot of us expect us to find or discover passion. And a lot of gurus will also tell you to follow your passion as if it is a match made in heaven. But what I've come to understand from my experience is that passion is created and not found. Passion is built and not discovered. It is built with a lot of hard work and effort in understanding the beauty and complexity of a certain topic. So the secret to building passion is to be open to exploring things around you. Dive deep into the topic and ask yourself, is this something that you want to do for the rest of your life? If the answer is yes, ask a few more questions. Ask yourself if you are willing to sacrifice and if you are willing to be patient. If not, maybe it's time for you to reconsider. My third lesson for you on building habits, discipline, and consistency. You see, as much as passion is important, building habits, discipline, and consistency are equally important. So what I have been always doing and what has helped me achieve consistency, build habits, and discipline is to observe your goals. Every once in 3 months, ask yourself, what are your next 5 goals? What do you want to achieve them? And those 5 goals, sort them according to their priorities, how badly you want them and how important are they for you. Once you have those 5 goals, the top 3 goals, give 1 hour every single day. And the rest 2 goals, give 1 hour every alternate day. That way, you build habits, you maintain consistency, you are good at managing your time, and you are also reminded of your goal every single day. And also remember, when you are building consistency, marginal improvements are very, very necessary. You do not have to take a giant leap. In the past, I made quite a few mistakes. I always wanted to be a good programmer, so I thought, let's start from today. Super excited, super pumped up. I would code the whole night long for 4 to 5 hours straight. The next morning, I would wake up, my body was fully tired, I could barely walk, and my body used to give up. Because why not? Our body cannot handle sudden changes, right? It is not designed for that. The next day, I would sleep the whole day. The other day, third day, I was still feeling tired, and I would think, maybe tomorrow. And by the fourth day, I had totally forgotten my goals to be a good programmer. Soon I realized this wasn't working out, so I started changing my approach toward my goal. I started to code half an hour every single day. That became 1 hour next month, and the other month it was 2 hours, and by the third month, I had completely lost the count. So the key takeaway is that you do not have to take a giant leap when you start. Small marginal improvements are exactly what you need. My final lesson for you, work really, really hard. Everyone that I know that has achieved something of significance, they have put in an insane number of hours to master the art. So please do not look for the shortcuts to work less. The goal is not to work less. The goal is to minimize the stress. And to do that, find the detours. It does not matter how passionate you are. At times, you are likely to have self-doubt, frustration, and whatnot. And these detours will help you overcome them. So find the detours in arts, sports, music, dance, whatever you can that minimizes your stress. As I said, the goal is not to work less. The goal is to work the same number of hours, but with minimum stress. Now that you have built your passion, you have also built your habits, and you are working very hard for your dreams, please do not limit your vision for life. One regret I always had working as a research engineer, security researcher, I wish I had studied a lot harder in school. I wish I hadn't ignored mathematics, physics, chemistry, and similarly, I wish I was open to learning arts, music, sports, and dance, and these things. Because as a young kid, I was determined to be a good software engineer, and I thought I would only code for the rest of my life. And I went on to ignore everything else. I hadn't known the beauty and complexity of this universe until recently I started to study more about physics and space. So the goal is not to be passionate about something and ignore everything else. The goal is to be passionate about living a life. So if you're a young programmer, I have something for you. Remember that. Living a good life is as important as writing good codes. Now that you have built your passion, please spend some more time doing self-examination and do this regularly, because you cannot control every part of your life. You might be forced to find a new calling because of any factor, but if you understand yourself well, the change will be much easier, and you will continue to live a happy and a balanced life. Self-knowledge means that you know your strength and your weakness, and that you can also pinpoint your goals and values. It can help us treat ourselves and people around us with patience, kindness, respect, and understanding. So what is the meaning of life, and how do we find our purpose? The meaning of life is certainly not to write computer codes. Life is more than that. However, our life is determined by the pursuit of passion, the impact we make, and eventually our search for the meaning of life. The life that we wake up every day to live and love. I'm Yogesh. Thank you for listening.